Good morning, Southeast Missouri, and wherever you may be listening. This is the Retirement Playbook brought to you by Alspaugh Wealth Management. Yep, that's right, folks. We're here with you every Saturday morning, bringing you some great information about how to get to your dream retirement. So, get to and through, by the way. And so, as always, I'm joined by my co host, Mr. Tony Shore. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Brock Alspaugh. Hope you're doing well today, Brock. You're looking good. You look
Excellent.
alive and awake. You've had your 40 or 50 cups of coffee this morning already, I bet.
Yes, I've actually only had 2, and I am in desperate need of another one. I'm not gonna lie about it today, okay? I do need another cup of
Oh,
coffee.
you don't seem
I'm
like it.
I'm actually
You seem up.
well, yeah,
You're good.
so
You're always in a good mood,
if
though.
you're on YouTube, folks, you can see this. I've got a little Alspaugh Wealth
Oh,
Management
look
coffee
at
cup,
you.
and,
I'm
you know
still
what?
waiting for
There's
mine.
the check's in the mail, as they say. So, folks, we've got a great show lined up for you today. I'm really, really excited about what's going on. I'm actually more excited about the weather, though, Tony. This week is unbelievable. 70 degrees in February. I hope
Shorts weather.
shorts weather. Hope you're out playing golf or you're working in the yard, or well, you're probably not working in the yard in February, but doing something outside. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful time of year. We're stealing these days, Tony, as they say.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's been a fantastic week for weather, that's for sure. So, anyway, we've got a great show lined up for you today, folks. We're going to talk about what a lot of people are starting to. So, we're transitioning from that tax conversation to, what's happening in the markets and how is the market going to perform this year because there's an election. People are nervous. Maybe you don't like the 2 candidates that we have. What's going to happen to our economy? There's a lot of questions that people have, and we're going to answer a lot of those when it comes to the markets and how they're affected by election years. But before we get to that, I want folks to go to our website. It's alspaughwealthmanagement.com, ALSPAUGH. You can go to our website. You can actually request an appointment with me on a website. You can also, it's filled with great information, folks. You've got information about Roth conversions. You've got information about rollovers, okay? Right on our main page, it's all about 401k rollovers. Why? Because there's a large segment of employees that are now facing decisions, especially if you work at Mercy Southeast. What do I do with my 403b? There's a lot of questions that people have, and you should have questions, right? Don't just do the automated thing. Don't just cash it out. Don't just roll it into the new plan. Don't just do the IRA rollover. There's lots of different options. Each person is different, and you need a customized plan. So if you are one of those folks and you need a customized plan, give us a call at Alspaugh Wealth Management, 573-332-7855, or that web address again is Alspaugh, ALSPAUGH, wealthmanagement.com. All right, Tony, you ready to get started, my friend?
Let's get ready to rumble. How about that?
That was really good. You should do that for maybe some local UFC. Not the actual UFC, but they have local circuits. And
Sure.
I've been told I look like Joe Rogan, by the way. So maybe this is like a podcast
You
thing.
do.
Where, we're not going to do some of the crazy things that guy does. But
Yeah. You do look a little like Joe Rogan. I mean, you're better looking than Joe Rogan. Let's be honest. I mean,
stop
come on.
it. I don't know.
Joe Rogan is, but there's some similarities. I'm not going to say what, but there are some similarities.
Well, listen. So I'm gonna reference an article here by Investopedia, and it's titled "Investors' Election Year Worries Could Be Overblown." It's a lot of times in our community, in our world, that things are overblown. That's wow, shocker there, right? Media does a great job of fear mongering and among other things. So, but anyway, so what we're looking at is that in an election year, it can be volatile, but any year can be volatile, folks.
Right.
It's really dependent upon more about what the actual economy is doing and what these companies are doing fundamentally. Okay. But interestingly enough, here, Tony, the article cites a nationwide survey that found 68% of Republican investors think the election's outcome will have an immediate and direct impact on their finances, while just 57% of Democrat investors, think it will. Yet, while it's perfectly understandable that investors and savers will always feel anxious during election season, historical trends suggest there may be very little reason to be concerned. I'm going to repeat that. There's very little to be concerned. Not about what's going on in the election, not about, what's going on with, who's ahead of who and the different primaries and, Trump and Biden. None of that. It's just the fact that we have an election year and how that then affects your money, and especially the stock market. Okay. While the past isn't always a good predictor for the future, we know that, Tony, data suggests that investors should feel optimistic about what our upcoming election might mean for their bottom line. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So not only should investors not be worried about the election, they should be excited by it because it might have an optimistic effect on the market. And we're just talking about its effect on the market. There are real concerns about what this election could mean, obviously, that we all have. But as far as people worrying about the stock market as it relates to who wins or who doesn't, it sounds like there is a reason for some optimism here.
For sure. In fact, let's do a little bit of history lesson here when it comes to election years and how it affects the markets and those kinds of things. The S&P, Tony, has shown positive returns in 20 of the past 24 election years.
Wow.
Going back to 1928, by the way.
That's pretty good.
That's growth in just over 83% of the years that there's an election year. So, there's obviously opportunity for the market. I mean, look at 2021, right? 2021 had nothing to do with an election year, but the economy was good. The market was good.
It was.
We're just rebounding from this whole COVID thing. And yet the market was down. That makes no sense at all. Excuse me. I'm talking 2022. Sorry.
2022. Yeah.
Apologize.
The market was way down in 2022.
Way down, and there's no reason for it. I mean, there was zero reason for it. Companies had plenty of cash. They were making money. They were selling products. It's just one of those things where we have a fear. What was the fear in 2022? Inflation. Remember? Inflation was going crazy. Here's the
recession and inflation and interest rates.
And here we go. We got the Fed Reserve going, don't worry about it. It's transitory. Well, obviously it wasn't. So, there was just things that were going on in the economy that affected the stock market, even though the companies that make up the stock market were making plenty of money. Okay. So the fundamentals, folks, only go so far in some years. And this is probably no different when it comes to elections. Look, if the economy is good, if people are spending money, and by the way, as United States citizens goes, we're still spending like drunken sailors, right? I mean,
we haven't cut spending. They haven't cut spending in my lifetime.
No.
I doubt they're going to cut spending anytime soon.
And it's not even just the government, though, Tony. I'm talking about just the consumer out there.
Oh, yeah, the consumers.
Yeah, sure. Spending like crazy, too. So, a lot. I mean, anything can happen, but everybody I've talked to, the quote-unquote experts, we're still looking for some positive gains out of the S&P 500 this year, okay? But let's go back to this here. As for the average return in the election years, it was 11.58%, which is higher than the S&P 500's average return of 9.81. So since 1928, by the way. So, look, if you're talking about election years and you're talking about an average of 11.58, I'm pretty sure most people listening to this or watching this on YouTube would it take 11.58%.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Each and every year.
Yeah.
Twice on Sundays, as they say.
And twice on Sundays. Yeah.
So, this suggests that while election years will always be big news and, there's going to be volatility and, choosing who the leader of our free world is a big deal, like you said, Tony. But when it comes to your finances, it could be a boost or it may not be. But the past has shown us that 20 out of 24 election years has been positive. So
That's amazing. And I also read a recent article that said, some have bumps right after the election, like up or down. There will be a
Mm-hmm.
significant up or down. The week after it might drop, but the overall years have been positive. So that's good news. Looking at, and the future, past history does not
Sure.
indicate future results, but it is a good sign, and it does give us reason for some optimism here, and I think that's good. And if our listeners aren't already working with one, economic anxiety
For
over the
sure.
elections and our finances is a really good reason to work with somebody like yourself, Brock,
Yeah.
because you're going to keep the emotional decisions out of the financial world and really look at what's best for the individual, right?
Yeah, for sure, Tony. I mean, look, a customized plan with ignoring the noise. And that's really what we're talking about here, Tony.
Yeah,
We're talking about ignoring the noise
right.
because that's exactly what you're going to be hearing in the next few months. You've already seen the political ads starting to kick up here on
Oh yeah.
TV. Oh, yeah. So you've seen it and you're going to hear them on the radio and all these kinds of things. And that's fine. But when it comes to making decisions about your portfolio, this is just noise and it should have no bearing on how you invest your money. I mean, period. That's the bottom line of today's show is that you need a plan. You need someone to help you because it's going to get dicey at points. No question about it. In the next few months, Tony, things are going to get dicey, right? I mean, we still have a lot of things going on over here with China. We've got, obviously the war going on with Russia and Ukraine. You've got, I mean, there's just
The
things that
Middle
are
East,
the
yeah.
Middle East. I mean, there are geopolitical concerns, no doubt. Can that affect your portfolio? Yes,
Sure.
100% it could.
Oh, sure.
But
Somebody sneezes in China, it could affect your portfolio.
yeah, I mean, so, the thing is that when you're talking about making these decisions and then sticking to it, right? Because you can get advice, you can understand where you should be, what you should be doing. But if you don't stick to it, if you don't stick to the plan, it's not going to work. Okay. Um, Actually, I'm going to bring up an analogy there, Tony, because I
Okay.
was eating dinner. So 3 weeks ago, I decided, and me and a few other guys, that we were going to do this weight loss thing. It's not really a challenge. It's if you don't make the goal, you got to pitch in for it. But if you do make it, you're good, right? And so I've been trying to eat a little bit better, right? It's a little bit healthier, not as much. That's a big thing for me. Usually breakfast and lunch, I'm always been good, but dinner, I sit down and just chow down and eat too
Yeah.
much, and then I snack at night, and it's over.
Yep.
Okay, so I've cut
Same.
a lot of I've cut a
Same.
lot. Okay, I'm sure
Hands
there's
raised. Yeah. Guilty. Everything you just described, doing, eating too much, snacking at night. Good.
Okay, so there you go, confirmation. I think it's a guy thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, and so I've decided in the last 3 weeks to cut that out. I've got 3 more weeks to go. Anyway, so we go out to eat the dinner, wife and I. We try to do a date night once a week. And so we're splitting meals now. So that's kind of a new thing for us. And we've been splitting meals. Like we'll split a salad and then we'll split an entree. And, usually I'm good, 100%. Well, the other night I was really hungry. Okay. And I said, maybe I should just order my own salad, babe. You get your own salad. I'll get my own salad and we could split that entree. Okay. She says, stick to the plan, Alspaugh.
Oh,
I was like, you sound like me talking to my clients,
that's
stick to
funny.
the plan. And and
Stick
and
to the plan.
and sure enough, Tony, we get that half salad, we get the half chicken parmesan, and guess what? I was full. I didn't even eat all of my food. So she was right. The point is that when you work with a professional, they're going to more than likely be right or be more right than if you're trying to do this on your own.
Right,
So
and they're
stick to the
going
plan.
to help you avoid making that emotional decision like you almost did with the food, and it reminds me of there's a common British expression, "steady on," right?
Steady
When it
on, okay.
comes to your
I like that.
finances, stay steady on and don't get distracted
Yeah.
by emotions or by what history suggests isn't gonna matter much, right?
No, agreed 100%. In fact,
That extra half salad, not gonna matter if you do eat it, it's like it doesn't matter if you don't eat it.
yeah, I agree. So speaking of evidence and speaking of, history, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. So you say, okay, Brock, I get it. we're going to avoid the noise. But what about, if the Republican gets in, or if, the Democrat gets in, and we're assuming it's going to be Trump versus Biden at this point, but things could change, obviously. But there's no evidence-based correlation, by the way, folks, between the political party holding the presidency and stock market returns. No matter how much you support one party or fear the other, the data suggests companies typically find ways to make money, produce positive returns, and make ultimately money in your portfolio.
Yes.
Second, that was the first thing. Second thing was that they found the stock market has been consistently and predictably positive since 1926, with the only blips being the Great Depression in the 1930s and the tech bubble burst in the early 2000s. Okay. And the great financial crisis that ran from 2007 to 2009.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, those are the only 3 times, that we're talking about, maybe 4 times that we're talking about here where in an election year where the market was down. Third, your behavior, not election results, are far more likely to determine your portfolio's performance. That's what we've been talking about. Try to avoid the noise. Do not make decisions based on, okay. And by the way, Tony, I've heard this from both sides. Like, if Trump gets elected, I'm out. I'm not, I'm going to put my money out and, bury it in the backyard, and I'm moving and blah, blah, blah. Great, whatever. But don't do that. Okay. Don't do it because you don't like somebody. All right. And so,
crazy.
yeah. And I've heard, oh my gosh, I'm just so fearful if, XYZ, if gets in the president. And look, there's lots of people that don't like Biden. Okay. But our economy has been pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things that are not good. I get it. But
sure.
Overall, I mean, people have been pretty happy with their stock market returns. And, it's, I guess my point is, Tony, again, if you were so worried about Biden getting in and your stock, and your 401k just going to zero, look, that hasn't happened. Okay. And I just don't know how much influence the actual president has on what's going on.
If you look at
in the overall economy.
history, the presidents come and go. The stock market in the last 100 years has gone steadily up, with a few exceptions of drops. But overall, from where it started to where it is now, it keeps setting record highs, and things have gone well. So presidents, however, have come and gone. And the stock market in your portfolio will still be there when the next president arrives. And so it has very little bearing, at least in history. It has had very little bearing, as you pointed out. Now, the key, though, is making sure you have a plan and sticking to the plan and working with a professional. So how can our listeners out there, Brock, get a hold of you to get a second opinion on where they're at? Make sure that they don't have all their eggs in one basket. Make sure they have a good plan moving forward.
Maximize their Social Security benefits. Maximize your pension if you have one.
Yes.
Making sure that, like you said, you're balanced and not only balanced, but invested according to how you should be, based on your age and your risk tolerance and your goals. Okay. There's just so much that goes into it. And it's not just about, look, a great start is what? Putting money away. That's the start.
Right.
Putting money away, hopefully maybe getting some kind of match and saving for retirement. So we know that's the first step, but it's not the only step, and it's not the most important step. The most important step is getting that plan. Give us a call at Alspaugh Wealth Management. It's alspaughwealthmanagement.com, or give us a call at 573-332-7855. Tony, I've got a couple more things I want to hit.
All right.
This is pretty interesting stuff. Yeah. It says a joint study between the National Retirement Institute and Advisor Authority found that 45% of investors think the outcome of this November's election will have a larger impact on their retirement goals and portfolios than market performance. Additionally, because of the pervasive pessimism about what election results mean for retirement planning, study respondents noted anxiety about the potential of new policies and opposing party rule on the overall U.S. economy. So again, just, it's basically comes down to this, Tony. You lean one way with the way you think and the way you vote. And so if you feel like that the other party is going to, if they win, that it's going to be a negative on your overall life. Okay. And so that's really what this is saying. And I just don't, I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it's just, I get it. You have uh, prejudices against,
Oh, sure.
the
Sure.
opposing thought and the opposing party.
Yeah, and if a certain candidate gets in, they might make decisions that might personally negatively affect you in some way, whether it's taxes or Social Security. But in the long run, it balances out, and no matter who gets in, they're not fixing the budget. They're not fixing out of control government spending. If one candidate could do that, that would be something. Then we might have something to talk about here.
Well, so if we talk about the overall, Tony, so if we're kind of just talking about these people that got surveyed,
Yeah.
and without let's forget about the election. It
Yeah.
does say 41% of investors overall are worried about a recession. Okay, and
Still.
yeah, still, and that word's been thrown around for the last 4 years.
Yeah,
And obviously
it
it
has.
has not happened. I personally think, and again, a lot of this is based. I mean, you saw some of the experts talk at the Gradient Summit there,
Yeah.
and most of them said, "Look, we think this is going to be a positive year in the stock market because the economy overall is still doing pretty well. We're still spending money. Consumers are still fairly healthy. We've got some increasing credit card debt. It's read the other day it reached another all-time high as far as the amount of credit card debt that the
That's
U.S.
a
citizens
concern.
hold. It's a concern. The inverted yield curve. Look, the 2-year Treasury bond is still paying more than the 10-year note. So and so that's opposite of what it should be normally, right? So you're 10
Right.
years at 4.2, and yet you can get a 2-year bond that's paying 5 or over 5. So that's called an inverted yield curve. And in the past, that has been a prediction for a recession, Tony. But it's been that way now for, I don't remember exactly when that happened, but
COVID.
COVID, yeah, exactly, 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah.
So, and
At least
again,
since 2020.
right, and so it hasn't happened, folks. Again, it could happen, and not a recession, because not a recession is not good, but a correction. Okay, let's call it a correction
Sure.
of values and a correction of where we're at and your spending habits is always usually a good thing. I mean, a correction, yeah, okay, your balances on your portfolio go down. Okay, fine. That's normal. That's part of the investing process. And by the way, when that happens, you should invest more if you've got the money to do it. So the correction is different, Tony. I don't want to confuse the two for folks than a recession. A recession is now all of a sudden our economy is not doing as well. We have 2 or more quarters of GDP negative growth. So, these are things that could affect a little bit more longer term than just a correction in the stock market.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? This has been a great topic. Believe it or not, we're almost out of time, Brock. we were rocking and rolling today, but it is a good topic. What is the 2024 election going to mean to our finances and the economy? And nobody has a crystal ball, but you, I think, really helped deal with some of the fears out there today. How can our listeners get a hold of you?
Yeah, give us a call at Alspaugh Wealth Management, folks, 573-332-7855. But I would really highly encourage you to go to our website, especially if you have questions, folks. If you've got a 401k that is an older 401k or that you're going to be making decisions about here, for example, again, Southeast Mercy, you've got to understand what your options are. Okay, so you can go to our website. We've got a 401k rollover guide, or if you want to talk about it, for sure, give us a call. But if you want to just check out that 401k rollover guide, which does apply to 403bs too, which is what people at the hospital have, you can download that on our website at alspaughwealthmanagement.com.
All right. That's allspawealthmanagement.com. And listeners, thanks for tuning in today. That does it for today's episode of the Retirement Playbook with our host, Brock Alspaugh.